And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Greetings and a happy early 4th of July. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan coming to you from the National Weather Service, and this is your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook. It is Wednesday, July 3rd, and this outlook will be for July 4th, Thursday and Friday. Well, overall, we have a pattern shift that's going to be happening, especially across the mainland as we go through the rest of this week and early in the weekend. We have very moist air coming in off of the North Pacific into the lower southeast half of the Bering that's going to be funneling right on up into the interior, especially along the west and southwest coast as we go through the weekend. This is going to bring in some cooler air temperatures. We have a cold front that's sagging southeastward, and it's serving as a boundary to allow this moisture to funnel inland. Meanwhile, conditions will be improving across the panhandle over the course of the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, into early next week. In fact, with the drying, more in the way of some sunshine, temperatures will be quite warm in the 60s, even some 70s emerging by early next week as a result. But before then, Thursday morning, there could be some IFR conditions across areas of the northern panhandle, Juneau on up toward White and Chilkoot Passes, some areas of IFR along the Gulf Coast, north central Gulf Coast, around Yakutat Bay and the Wrangell-St. Elias Mountains. But here along the west coast, I should say first Arctic coast, lower clouds, fog, but there is rain that is pushed inland, and because this air mass is quite moist and mild, it's going to lend toward lower ceilings, areas of fog, lower visibility, and some steadier rains, especially around areas of the Seward Peninsula surrounding Norton Sound. That's all spreading eastward inland. Today we still, though, have wind advisory Yukon Flats that could cause ongoing fires to enhance. That's not good news, but the cold front will be sagging southeastward, bringing in some wetting rains as we go through the holiday. We expect MVFR conditions, middle upper Yukon Valley. IFR conditions continue along the entire west coast and up along areas just along and offshore there of the Arctic coast. And then for Friday morning, as we go through Thursday night and the Friday morning, we see even more in the way of some IFR conditions pushing inland into the central interior and especially south side of the Brooks Range, north of the Yukon River. There can be some wetting rains, soaking rains that'll be working its way eastward with time. And then as we get into Friday afternoon, we anticipate widespread MVFR conditions across much of the mainland interior with areas of rain or rain showers certainly having spread eastward all the way to Fairbanks and on up toward the Yukon Flats. So that's going to help dampen the fire weather threat. And but again, along the west coast, out over the Bering, extensive IFR conditions are anticipated in that juicier air mass, but temperatures are going to cool a bit. And looking for Thursday here across the east central portion of the Brooks Range, Anaktuvuk as well as Addington Pass will start out IFR Thursday morning on the 4th, giving way to MVFR conditions at least for a time in the afternoon, early evening. But overall, the trend will be toward IFR conditions Thursday night into Friday as more in the way of that moisture spreads eastward. Addington Pass, IFR again Thursday morning, giving way to MVFR conditions and back to IFR likely here as we go into Thursday night and Friday. Lake Clark and Merrill should hold on to VFR conditions for the 4th of July. And as we round up Rainy Pass, VFR, Windy Pass, generally MVFR conditions are expected there throughout the day on the 4th. As well as at Isabel Pass. As we go east, Mentasta Pass may just be able to hold on to VFR conditions for the 4th of July, but areas south of there, south of the south entrance and to the west, we anticipate MVFR conditions there on Thursday. And then Tonita Pass, generally MVFR conditions, and coming down along Prince William Sound, especially eastern half of Portage Pass out into Prince William Sound, MVFR conditions. There could be some VFR conditions along the west entrance there during the 4th. And then Chilkoot and White, generally we'll see MVFR conditions, maybe a brief period of IFR conditions as we go through the afternoon, early evening. But as I mentioned, at least the prognosis for the panhandle here coming up over the long holiday weekend into early next week will be for at least mostly clear to partly cloudy skies and warming temperatures. So what's going on, and we can see a snapshot here as of Thursday morning on the 4th. We still have a ridge of high pressure, weak ridge here out along south central into northwest Canada with warmer freezing levels or higher freezing levels aloft, implying the dome of warmer air over western central Canada, nudging up into areas of the Panhandle. This will likely, I think, strengthen a little bit or hold in through this region and actually nudge up to along the Alcan border here by the time we get in the late weekend, early next week. So the ridge will generally hold in this position. We have also a dome of much warmer air out over the Bering Sea. This is mild air that's moisture laden as that is pushed inland. This is actually going to get squeezed off toward the southeast. That's going to set up a pattern for some potentially heavier rainfall out across Cook Inlet Friday night into Saturday, and even it's looking potentially Anchorage area could pick up around 3/4 of an inch of rainfall as a result of this folding over, in part because of the front that's just slowly sagging southeastward. It'll be the focus of the areas of rain and rain showers across much of the interior to take us out through the rest of the week, Thursday into Friday, and into Saturday as well. So looking at the potential for icing, because of the warmer temperatures aloft, the freezing levels are higher, so the icing threat may be above 8,000 feet here along the eastern North Slope, eastern Brooks Range, above 12,000 feet through the upper half of the Yukon Valley, Tanana Valley, and then as we extend down into the southwest, Bristol Bay, north side of the Alaska Peninsula, all the way down toward the eastern Aleutians, above 6,000 feet, and even for the day Thursday on the 4th of July, areas around Norton Sound, lower Yukon Delta, above 14,000 feet due to that warmer air mass and the higher freezing levels. So here we do have some ridging out over especially the eastern half of the Bering Sea on Thursday. And we have a bit of a trough nudging up here toward the Canadian Arctic coast, ridging, weaker ridging up here into the North Pacific up toward British Columbia and Vancouver. And as we drop it down to 9,000 feet or 700 millibars, pretty broad belt of west-northwest winds aloft, right around 30 to 40 knots, but some pockets of higher 40, even near 50-knot winds around the Alaska Range, again at 9,000 feet or 700 millibars. And then there is a low that's going to be tracking out across eastern Russia. This has a core of stronger winds out across the western and southwest Bering, 50 to 60 knots, and then bringing it down to 3,000 feet. We find a little stronger winds here along the entrance there of the Mackenzie River, east of Kaktovik. But here's this belt of winds that's come up into the interior along and just north and west of the Alaska Range to the Yukon River. 30 to 40, even isolated 45-knot winds along the west side of the Alaska Range in the southwest interior. And that broad belt of 30 to 40-knot winds continues out across the Bering. And so, again, with this feed of moisture coming in from west-southwest to east-northeast, there's the potential for some moderate turbulence between the Brooks and Alaska Range on the 4th of July. Generally surface to 4,000 feet, but obviously higher along areas, especially the north side of the Alaska Range. That'd be upwards of 10,000 feet, just given the elevations. Also extending back toward St. Lawrence Island, we expect some moderate turbulence possible. And then another area way out toward the western Aleutians, surface to 3,000 feet.